Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for March 19th, 2025. I see that we have 4 members here, which is all that we have at this point in time. If anyone wants to volunteer, we have a seat open. We are looking for applicants to do service, and we have a lot of fun. It's very interesting, and it's not a huge time commitment. So anyway. Let's see. All right. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the draft meeting minutes for February 19th? Yes. I took a look at them. I didn't see any corrections, concerns, or anything like that. Did anybody see anything? No. Okay. So I'll make a motion that we accept the draft minutes for February 19th, 2025 as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. And Kim, did you want to say something? I see it on the list here before we get into the...
Yes, so at the February meeting, the Tobin appeal was scheduled for a public hearing for tonight. There was a timing issue, so the notices didn't go out on time. So they've asked to be adjourned until the April meeting. So if the board is fine with that, I would make a motion to schedule the public hearing for, I believe it's April 16th.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing in that matter until April 16th. I guess we'll just let Gretchen know.
Yeah,
for the
let Gretchen
minutes.
know. I think she records or she watches the video, but just a motion and then a second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Done. All right, so we have actually 2 new applications. The first new application is case number 1073. Aaron Oxley and Eric, is it Krancevic?
Got it, thank you.
Wow. I usually mess it up, so.
That's a first.
Great, well, come on up. We have your application, and what we do right now is just to take a look at your application to see if it is sufficient for us to accept, so we can consider it. And what we'd ask you to do is to just step up, explain what you want to do. Kim can assist you with the computer. We actually have a neat little device there that you can use to point out to the...
Sure.
See, we're fancy here. So, again, just take us through what you want to do. I know it's not that complex, but just tell us what you want to do, and then we'll probably ask you some questions about it. I think we'll probably ask you for some more information we typically do just a little bit before we accept it. And we'll probably accept it tonight, but just, if you could just let us know what you want to do.
Sure. Thanks for including us on the agenda today. I'm Erin. I'm the owner and applicant. This is my husband, Eric, who is a representative and applicant. You want to explain?
Yeah, step on up, and you are on camera, by the way, so we let the public do.
Hi. So, it's nice to meet everyone, thank you. I'll probably do a lot of the explaining. I didn't organize the package it gets submitted, so if there's a failure, it's my fault. So we, per the requirement, we did submit several site plans. This plan is from our civil engineer, and it's representing how we're planning site access, the house footprint, the setbacks from the front and side yards, and there's also a septic design represented as well. We can look at the next attachment if you have it available. So this,
Oops, sorry.
oh, that's okay. One more, please. Thank you. Okay, so this plan is the existing site plan. It's currently a vacant lot. There was a single-family residence that was demoed in 2020, so we have the application number reference for that. Oh, sure, yeah. So I guess before I go into more detail on everything, if you could just go to the next slide, I'll explain.
The previous one? Or the
No, this is perfect. So this plan is kind of giving you a sense of what we're proposing. We are proposing a new single-family residence, and we have a 66-foot wide lot. We're planning a 24-foot wide home, and the zoning setbacks required from the side yards are 50 feet on either side. So that's the purpose of being here and submitting this application. We are setting back 120 feet average from the front property line, which is kind of skewed. And this is what we're proposing. If you go to the next slide, please. So drawing elevations, this slide and the next, just for the reference of the board. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, this is general representation of how far it's set back from the front, how it would look at the front property line. Next slide, please. So this is the existing condition. Again, another photo. One was from the summer, this one's from December.
What's up on the left? I was looking at that.
Sure. These are part of the neighboring property. They're sort of outbuilding sheds in their rear yard. But the,
3 sheds in their rear yard
Yeah.
that kind of overlook the side of the property. The 3 properties are slopes, so it's, their property is a little higher than ours, and then the property below us is lower than ours. It's a step.
and
Is that, excuse me, is that the lot that's next to Kim Danu's old house?
yes,
Yes.
that would be 27 the new way, this
Okay,
property.
Right, all right.
How do they feel
Their
about?
property is Kim Danu's
That's
She
correct.
subdivided.
previous.
Well, but she had a house,
she-
and
yes.
so there were a couple of lots there, and this is the empty lot.
That's right.
How do your neighbors feel about this?
We knocked on all of their doors, nobody was home, so we did leave a note with our contact information. The people up further up from us, the blue sheds, they're actually, that house is up for sale. Somebody bought it and has, I guess, renovated it, and it's currently on the market for sale.
Your neighbors will be notified for the
Yeah.
public hearing, so you know the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rudy.
Pardon?
I think the other side is Rudy,
The blue house down the hill?
yeah, blue house.
Yes.
Larger blue house.
Yeah.
So this is also a blue house, and then the one down the slope is also a blue house. We haven't met them. But we did leave our contact information in a note.
Are these 2 photos, are they taken from the same angle? And what angle are,
The
like?
previous photo and this photo?
Uh-huh.
I think this one's
Looks
just
like
standing back a little bit further.
Looking towards,
Looking towards-
towards the road?
No,
Or
the
looking
second
towards,
front.
from
Yeah,
the
towards
road?
They're
towards the back.
They're both looking towards the rear.
Okay.
The difference is the time of the year.
Right.
There's so much foliage, it conceals the sheds
Oh.
and the rocky slope. But this is slightly, the photo's slightly taken with the view of the left. But even in the summer, it would be difficult to see these sheds, there's so much foliage.
You know, they're not gonna be able to see you either, so.
Yeah, we're actually setting back far enough that there's no window, there's no contact on either side to maintain everybody's privacy.
Yeah, the alignment with our proposed house is more in line kind of in the middle and towards the rear of the shed. So the lot is about 266 feet deep. So we're siting towards the middle of that lot.
Yeah, I know you showed us what the house is kind of gonna be like, but what we like to have is our renderings of what the house will look like. And first, the color and exactly what it's gonna look like. And also, if you can, and people do this all the time, is put the house on the property as best you can so we can see where it's gonna sit. What we do is, after the public hearing, we typically come out, we always come out and we do a site visit. And we'll ask that everything be staked out so we can see where it is. But renderings are very helpful to us to get a kind of an idea of what the house is actually gonna look like, how it's gonna fit on the property and the overall area on either side of you, et cetera.
For sure.
So we definitely need renderings. It's not gonna preclude us from not taking your application tonight, but it's something we'll need before we can, as follow-up.
May I ask, is one perspective from the front sufficient?
As
Like-
many as you can give us is always good, and
Okay.
Gretchen can actually, if you ask her, she has probably a library of all kinds of, because we always ask for renderings. It's a common thing. We always ask for renderings, and additional renderings.
Yeah.
So, but she can help you there.
Great.
Where's the septic going?
Let's, do you mind
Yeah, is it on
just
the
going
next?
back to that initial
Oh,
site
the
plan?
initial one? Sure.
Yeah, that's the best representation.
You know that in the beginning.
Okay, so
Okay.
the
Okay.
initial installation would be here with the backup installation for future install if required, in the front.
Thank you.
What about on the other side? Is there, how close are the houses on to the right? That picture you showed us, is there?
Sure,
Actually, I have an area that might be helpful.
Yeah. This step down quite a bit more than the step up is.
so this is currently in the parcel access finder. It's still showing the previous home on the lot. You can see the proximity between these two. It's a pretty close relationship. The difference, as Eric mentioned, is the elevation of the two grades.
Show the step down, or the house on the other side is.
Oh, are you referring to this
Yes.
home down here? Yeah, this is it's like kind of a garage barn, and this is the main roof line of the home.
Can you show where we're
I think we're essentially proposing the site in the middle of this lot, so it's back here.
I'm just curious, because you showed the one side with the two sheds that were close in the house. I don't know what it was relative to the sheds, but this is a good picture to answer my question.
Yeah, I think, it looks like it might be, the sheds might be maybe here. Is that where the sheds are?
That's right.
the shed, yeah.
That's at least one of the,
So this is pre their renovations also. And footprint is a little smaller.
Yeah, I think I might have this was the one that was taken
Ah, yes.
from just a few days ago off of parcel access. And the highlight is the applicant's property right here. And you can see the houses.
That was part of the package, right? This one right here?
This one is, I can send it to you. This is
Yeah,
just for parcel
because I have this
access.
one, which is great, but that's even
Sure.
better.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
thanks for coming.
Oh, yeah. no, no.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, that was on the other side.
Okay. All right, the application is adequate in my mind, but we'll take a vote, I'll ask my compadres here what they think. But we do need the renderings, and again,
Yeah.
it's a very common thing. Ask Gretchen, she can give you copies, but the more you can give us, showing us exactly how the house looks, how it's going to be on the property, and all the vantage points you can possibly give us, the better. We will do the site visit, which is essential, but the renderings are wonderful. So we're going to need that, and typically when, do you get it like a week before?
Usually a week before.
A week before the next,
Okay.
okay. So anyway, I will make a motion that we accept the application subject to the renderings that have been requested. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I believe April 16th, does that sound right?
Yes,
Is the next date?
but I believe they want to put the night.
Okay,
Would we
okay.
be able to schedule for May, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Just give us adequate time. to-
Well, that's why I asked, because once I get the date, I said, can you make it?
Okay.
Um,
So May 21st?
May 21st. Okay, so we'll put it on for May 21st.
Do you have aspirations to break ground
We do, because we have aspirations for this year
this year?
to start building.
Okay. The process, basically, just to give you an idea, is we're going to have the public hearing, and your neighbors will be asked, will be told about this. They have an opportunity to come here. You'll present again. They can ask you questions. We'll try to go over the renderings, etc. Any input you can get from your neighbors is always helpful to us, because we want to know what the neighbors think and how they feel. That's an important consideration. And then once we do the public hearing, we typically go out and we will come and visit you. at time of your convenience, and we'll see where it's staked out, you know, get the lay of the land, so to speak, and then typically at the next meeting, so you're probably talking in June, probably in July, we'll have a resolution for you
Well,
on the variances.
I mean, if the public hearing's in May, and it closes in May, then it would probably be ready in June.
It'll probably be ready in June.
It'd probably be ready in June, they wouldn't
We
have
have until
until,
probably
they
July,
have
yeah.
until, they have 2 months after the public hearing closes.
Yeah, 62 days.
Um,
And depending, yeah.
Would you want to do the site walk with the footprint staked out before the May hearing?
I don't like doing it that way, and here's why.
Okay,
If your neighbors come out, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, I get to hear their concerns. And when I get to hear their concerns at the public hearing, then I can have those in my head when I'm doing the site visit. So that's my personal preference.
that's fine.
We can do it beforehand, but I'd like to do it after.
I just want to know when we would need to schedule that for.
Yeah, yeah, after the public.
Okay.
All right, and we'll probably, 3 or 4 of us will come out. It's usually on a Saturday morning.
When the trees are full.
It will be.
I just got a question. Do you have town water there, or is it a well?
That's a good question.
City water.
Yeah, I kind of thought, because I was looking at how things were. Okay, I mean, not that it has no impact on our decision, but
Yeah.
I was just curious.
They've had the water department down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Scott, I have a few questions,
Okay.
just from your application. In your narrative, you said that it was a proposed 2-bedroom, but on the site plan it says 3-bedroom, so which one are you?
The septic design is for 3 bedrooms.
Okay, got it. And in the, you provided topos, and then this is also topos just from parcel access.
Right.
So I think the house looks like it's kind of around here, which kind of seems a bit on a hill or a grade. Do you have to do any grading for where the house is going to be located?
There will be some regrading if you don't mind going back to the civil plan. I think that's
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
representation
Sure.
of.
The first one, right?
Yes, please. And there is a more current version of the civil plan, which I just received last week, and I will submit that before the next meeting, but
This is the grade.
there is some regrading in this area. But it's not regrading of any rock. There's some weird soil that was dumped and filled in that area, and that's what that topography is showing. The majority of the slope of the rock is actually on the neighbor's property, kind of back in here, across the property line.
And you had mentioned too, you might not know this information, so I'm just, if you don't, that's fine, but do you happen to know what the previous owner's house size was? You said it was kind of similar in footprint. I didn't know if you happen to know those figures.
It was longer than what we're proposing, but I think the same width, right?
There's a 1981 survey further in the attachments. Do you mind
Yeah.
looking through that? That will give a better sense.
What is this one?
Let's try,
No, that's not it.
keep going, please. I think it's.
Oh, I
the-
see it, over here.
Yeah, it's scanned. So I will check the measured drawing and give you an estimate on the footprint
Yeah,
size.
it's just, I think it might be helpful for the board to kind of know what was there previously and what's being proposed.
Sure.
Is there any evidence of what was there before? Any?
Yes, I do have photos.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant
Oh,
on the
okay.
lot today.
Yeah, I was gonna,
Yes,
that's,
we have
well,
photos.
yeah,
The lot
nice.
physically,
On the lot physically, but photographs, if that doesn't exist, then photographs would be nice too, just to.
Yeah, we have photographs, but they demoed and
Right.
buried, so there's
There's
no
nothing.
evidence that you can visibly see today.
All right, so yeah, if you can throw in the photos while you're with the renderings, that's great.
absolutely.
The more information we have, the better.
Yeah, actually, one of the neighbors just texted us
This morning.
photos of right before they demoed. So, that was nice.
Okay, any more questions, Ken?
Nope, that was all, thank you.
Okay, great, we'll see you in May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a couple of housekeeping items here, and let's see. First is the secret determination, and Kim, does it make a difference if we include it under both?
No, that's why I put it under both. So there's two possible ways of classifying it. The best way of classifying seeker is really what the proposed project is and what the approval is. So if you do it under 617.5C11, it's for construction of a single-family home, which really emphasizes what this project is. You can also do it under 617.5C16, which is the granting for setbacks, which is what this application is for.
Right.
So either way, it's a type 2 action, so it's really just the best way of classifying it. So
You
I
wouldn't-
just left it to the board. to
Yeah,
decide.
and you wouldn't do it under both, you just do it under.
It's best to really just do it under
And
one.
then I would do it under the first one, that's.
First one? Okay, so
Because the other
that's-
one is really for when they, the project is there.
Yeah,
they're
it's like,
expanding
I would think
something.
of it as, it's, the approval's being sought for this or the variance, but the project as a whole is really
Right.
construction of a
Yes,
house, so.
I think I agree with you. So, just reviewing the cheat sheet here, Kim has indicated through her research, and I agree with that, this is a type 2 action, no matter which way you go. But 617.5C11 is probably the one that fits the best because it is construction or expansion of a single-family, a 2-family, or 3-family residence on an approved lot, including the provision for necessary utility connections is the way it reads. So that's really what we're dealing with. So I'd make a motion that we consider this as a type 2 action under 617.5C11. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. And the referrals are to the planning board as usual and the WAC. And who would like to be the contact person on this? All right. So Brian's the contact on that. Anything else, Kim, or?
I know we talked about the public hearing. Did you do a motion for public hearing? I can't.
I think I did.
Remember we did.
Well, no, I did a motion that we accept the application and set the public hearing. Then I was asking about the
Okay.
April date, they said we would do it, so we did it for May.
Okay, perfect.
So, all right. All right, so the next application is actually one that's been before us before, and that is the
Equal.
T-Court.
Good evening, Seth Stickle with Mark Kraminski, PE LSPC, here this evening to represent T-Corp LLC, owner and applicant of a 55.096 acre parcel on the west side of River Road. This evening we have a very unique and interesting project to present to you.
Bless you. Thank you.
Just wanted to point out a couple of things. We will be looking at some busy maps, and this is a good reference that's up on the screen right now. What we're really focused on tonight is a 1/8 scale train, and that train has portions of it that are under construction, portions of it that have been before this board before, and we're proposing now the north and east loops that have some buildings associated with them that are part of the application this evening. So what's under construction currently is what we call the southern loop, so that's this portion here. It comes back, and then what is the central loop? That's this portion here. Both of those loops have trestle associated with them, and they have buildings. The buildings were before this board previously. It's a roundhouse and a car barn. They were before this board previously because of their location in front of the principal building. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to get into the property because the property is pretty unique in its shape and the location of the principal dwelling unit. This parcel is actually has 2 points of ingress and egress. So there's one located off of Tea House Lane that connects to River Road, and then there's a shared driveway access that's part of this flag lot. Just to clarify the lot configuration, I just want to trace that right now counterclockwise here. Just to let you know, the parcel rises up through here, and then this is where the primary dwelling is, always almost on the edge of the cliff that goes down to Astor Cove. Here you have the Hudson River and the railroad that continues back up to two small loops, and then back down around T4. and then all the way back down to River Road. So a very unique parcel configuration, certainly. As I mentioned, it's 55.096 acres, so it's a large estate parcel. There are several accessory structures on this parcel that were inherited when the current owner had purchased the property. Most of those are located in the rear portion of the lot here. Almost all of them are within, in front of the principal dwelling unit because of that location. We do have those labeled on other plans, but just wanted to note that. The other thing I wanted to just talk about is this area here, which is part of the Phase 4 loop that includes a Garden Railroad. That location had actually previously been the Carmelita Sisters development, so it was actually heavily, the building was large, there was a lot of pavement, it was very disturbed. I actually forgot to include a slide about that tonight, so I just wanted to hand this out to you quick. These are historic aerials that show where that location was previously disturbed. So almost the entire portion of this area right here that we're proposing for a Garden Railroad was previously developed. And a lot of hardscape, a lot of pavement, a lot of buildings. Now it's currently, that building's been demolished. It was demolished, I think, over like 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. We were before this board, I think, in 2021 for the variance, which included several proposed structures. Currently, the ones that are under construction and are nearing a CO are the roundhouse and car barn. There are a few other structures. There was a proposed maintenance building and a storage bin structure down here. There's also a garage addition to the guest house that is located here. Those buildings have not been under construction. Once we get a full CO for these buildings, we'll begin to develop out those other buildings. So you have a mix of existing structures, existing approved structures, and proposed structures on this site.
Is the tree house still there?
I do believe that the tree house is located here, yeah. Also was part of the previous approval. So really the focus of this application tonight, you can go to the next slide, please, is the accessory structure section of it. This application is running concurrent with a site plan application with the town planning board for site plan special permit and wetlands permit. Part of this project was conceptually approved in a master plan that was reviewed with the planning board over that same 2020-2021 period. That master plan actually conceptually approved the entire layout of the train. We just went and developed sections of it at a time. So now we're coming back for that second section. So the application before this board tonight is actually 5 area variances, mostly due to the location of the principal dwelling unit and then also height of structures. Just want to talk about structures briefly because with past and current zoning administrators, when we're reviewing the project, because of the uniqueness of trestles and structures that are associated with a train like this, they have been determined to be structures. So trestle is also a structure and then must conform to potentially the height requirement, which is 20 feet in the zoning district. Because of the nature of what we're proposing, we are going to go a little bit higher than that with some of these structures. So that's significant. So first is the north loop, and there is a trestle bridge span, which exceeds the 20-foot height. Then the east loop also has a signature bridge with stone towers and a steel truss that exceeds the height. In the HP20 zoning district, there are specific calculations that you do for accessory structure allowance. We'll go through those as well. The aggregate square footage, we are over that very slightly. And then the last two are for the covered platform, which is part of the ride-on 1/8 scale train, and then the conservatory building, which is part of the storage for the garden scale train. Those are located within front of the principal dwelling. So those are also going to require a variance. Next slide, please. So just going to get into variance number 1. So that would be the north loop's trestle height. So the north loop actually is in a portion of the property that is a deeded easement. So SSS Farm, who is the neighbor to the north, during an agreement where we worked out a purchase of 20 acres for them, also has deeded access to maintain, construct, and use a train within a 30-foot span of their property. That is all actually on register at the county clerk's office. So that has been done. So this portion of the terrain is almost all trestle because of the nature of the topography through here. And there's a certain span which goes over a wetland area where the structural engineer is choosing to span that section so that we don't have any impact to that area. And in order to do that, the trestle height is proposed at 20 feet, so 29 feet. So section of the code 125-27A1 says that no structure shall exceed the 20 feet in height in any residential district. So because these are structures, this specific portion of the span will be at a maximum height of 29.3. So we're requesting a 9.3 foot variance. This is part of an entire trestle structure. You can see there's several different vents and forms here, but this is the one that is actually the maximum height. So since it's all one structure, we're asking for the variance for the maximum portion, if that makes some sense. So next slide, please.
Forgive me, can I ask,
Absolutely.
what's under there, is that what's going on there? Is it an active wetland? Is it a dry creek? Is it?
It's a dry creek. It's a drainage essentially.
Okay.
So it's seasonally wet and then dries out in the summer period. It is just because we have done wetland delineation on all of this property. There is a small portion of a wetland that actually drains under a road. This is all part of the original Astor Estates, so there are connecting roads between many of these properties, including this parcel and SSS Farm. So there's actually a constructed roadway here, a utility road, and there's a culvert pipe underneath that. So a small part of water gets pooled up behind that, and then that drains out down to the Hudson River through here. And that all of the actual stream or intermittent stream and this wetland have been delineated, and that's their boundary.
I just have a quick question. I know that there was something here many, many years ago, and this is actually an extension of what was there before.
Yeah,
I kind of remember it, it's been a long time since the
Certainly.
last time you were here,
Certainly.
and that seemed to concern the original footprint, if I recall correctly, of the train that was there maybe 75 or 100 years ago.
Yeah, as part of that Astor Estate, there was actually a miniature train associated with it and a full-scale train that actually arrived onto the property. So this is actually the area where the miniature train used to connect from the T-Court parcel up into the SSS Farm parcel, actually. So along here, when we do our site visit, we can actually see the ruins of the original trestle that Astor actually had constructed on the site. So in a call back to that time period in the interest of our client and their hobbies, this is something that they're very interested in kind of recreating on the site.
Back to the wetlands, if I may. I know
Certainly.
that things have evolved with regulations. I was just in a presentation for 2025 updates. And I don't know the answer to this, has anything changed that will impact anything you're doing here? Do you know?
So as part of all projects now, after January 1st, you're required to do the jurisdictional determination through the New York State DEC for wetlands on any site. So we have submitted to the DEC. They have 90 days, so 3 months to respond to that. So we are in the process of doing that. We meet, our first meeting with the planning board is on April 7th. As part of our wetland permit, we will certainly be diving into all things wetlands and all things jurisdictional. So we do not know yet what the jurisdictional determination is. All of these wetlands are ACOE currently, as they're identified. And the town, of course, has their own wetland ordinance, which has a buffer associated with it. And as part of this, because we are in that buffer area, we are asking and requesting some buffer disturbance in our application for the planning board.
Thank you.
Slide, please. So variance 2 is similar, except it's a different structure, and this is part of the East Loop. Part of the East Loop, and I can read the section again, it's 125-27A, accessory structures, no structure be more than 20 feet. So the East Loop includes a signature bridge. The signature bridge has towers and a truss structure. It's all one structure, so that's where we're coming up with the maximum height of that structure, which is the top of the truss. To the, there is another ACOE town wetland in this area. Again, it's an intermittent drainage course that runs from SSS Farm through that property, and actually the Ferncliff Nursing Home discharges their sewer into that same drainage course as well further down. But this portion is located as you travel to the east, and it was a unique way to be able to span actually the entire drainage. So what we will do is actually construct the towers on site, construct the whole span, and then drop it in place with a crane, so that we don't have to do any work in that area. So the maximum height of this entire structure, because of the ditch that it's in, because this tower is set up higher, and because of the truss system that's being used, is 51.6 feet. So the variance request for that structure, very unique structure, is 31.6 feet. Next slide, please. So now we have to get into a little bit of math. The third variance is about these structures, all the structures on the site. As I mentioned, there are existing structures, many of which were inherited. We have structures that were approved previously with this board, somewhere in 2000, 2001. And then we have new structures that were part of that same approval. And then we have, these are under construction and nearing completion. And then we're also just proposing the covered platform and the conservatory storage. So the section of the code is 12527A, accessory structures number 4. Within the HP 20 and the RA10 districts, the aggregate of such structures shall not exceed the general of 1,500 square feet or 300 square feet per acre or part thereof that is less restricted. So if we take 55 acres and we multiply by 300, we get 16,529 square feet. All of the existing and previously approved structures are about 14,552 square feet. The proposed covered platform and conservatory are 2,179 square feet. So adding those together, we end up at 16,731 square feet on this parcel. We are 202 square feet above the allotted requirement, and as a result, asking for a variance. No, next slide, it's fine. So, just wanted to point out, if anybody's curious where those are, we can certainly go through and identify all of them. It is a busy map, but like I said, principal dwelling unit here, that includes a pergola and a spa that were considered structures. There is a pool that's associated with that. There's a gazebo, and then there is a small glass tea house and a guest house. All of those are kind of inherited existing, as well as the tree house that was
Are there still
mentioned.
accessory structures on the law? I mean, the law has changed to get rid of a lot of that stuff. If they were small enough.
At the time of their approval, they were still considered
I think
accessory
the law's
structures.
changed.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But that may change our calculation then a little bit, and I'll certainly visit that with Kim.
Yes, that was Kim, 3-4 years ago. Remember we were having all the generators and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I
The
think,
pergolas and the gazebos. And
yeah, I think pergolas still count, but anyway, I'll look back
Yeah.
into this.
We'll certainly take a look at that. It may eliminate a variance, which would be excellent. And then as we move, further to the east in the property, we have the roundhouse and car barn that are support structures for the entire, that's where all the cars and things get stored for the train. And then as we keep going, this is where currently the Sisters development used to be, and we're just proposing the small conservatory, glass conservatory, and a platform to arrive at, so you can view the garden scale train. There's a lot of details in the packet about the garden scale train, which is interesting. If
Yeah,
anyone's
you
interested.
may want to just, for the audience's edification, just show the photographs of these
We're
renderings.
coming to them at the end?
Because that shows, like, for example, what you just talked about.
Absolutely, yeah. For the board's information, there's a lot in here, I'm just trying to
Right.
briefly summarize it as best as possible. So we can go to the next slide, please. So the fourth and fifth variances I mentioned are because of the location of both the covered platform and the conservatory in front of the principal dwelling. We looked at the map, the principal dwelling is obviously all the way to the west as far as it can go on the property, so almost everything in this property is in front of that. So that's 12527A3 of the accessory structures. No structure shall be either projecting closer to the fronting street than the principal lot. That's essentially what we're working with here. So the principal dwelling is 2,918 feet from River Road. The covered platform will be 1,078 feet, and the conservatory will be 965 feet. All of them are far set back into the property, obviously, but they do not meet the requirement to be behind the principal dwelling. So we're asking for variances for the distance that they are in front of the principal buildings. So that's the 5. If we could go to the next slide, we'll get into the renderings. I did just dimension, so you can see that that's the dimension for how far the tea house actually is from River Road, and then the conservatory building is this far, and then the arrival platform is that far away.
So they're visible from River Road? I presume?
They are not visible from River Road. Tea House Lane is a private drive. It's not actually a town road, too. It is pretty much the driveway for this, but over time with Ferncliff Drive also, they've kind of melded together to create the U shape that allows you to go through that area. One part of our application with the planning board is actually to do some revision of gates to make sure that the access is controlled in that area, because obviously when we have either the garden scale or the 1/8 scale train, we want to make sure that that's protected. So next slide, please. So here are the renderings. So what we're looking at now is actually what was the formal Carmelita Sisters property, which is in front of you on those historic aerials. This is looking from Tea House Lane, so right about that intersection of Ferncliff Drive and Tea House Lane. You're looking into the property now. This would be the 1/8 scale train that is passing along in a loop here. And then in the distance here, you can see what is proposed as a glass conservatory going for sort of a greenhouse look in that. And then further in the distance, you actually do see what is the signature bridge, so you can just get an idea of scale that is kind of tucked into the woods there, and you really can't even see the platform. All of these trees are existing. Part of the garden scale train is some sculptures, essentially a sculptured garden, and a lot of plantings. So that's what you see here, some water features and sculptures, as well as a lot of plantings in the back.
But the trees that, as you indicated, the trees, those are the trees that are down.
These are all of the trees that are existing on the property now. Next slide, please.
Is this the conservatory?
That is the conservatory, yes. Yeah. Another just sort of different view of that as you kind of continue into the property. You're looking again at what is the glass conservatory, which does meet the height requirements, and then just in the distance you can see the arrival of where the platform is. Really simple covered platform. It is a functional train you can ride on. That will be kind of passing, and then as an aesthetic kind of nod from Jack Verducci, who is a renowned garden scale designer. We'll be using that as kind of a focus feature, so you have something to look at when you're going around. So next slide, please. This would be the view from the covered platform. Anything that has trestles on it, of course, or bridges will have support railings, so just noting that here on all sides. And then what we're looking at here is a bit of a view of what will be the conservatory. That will have sort of a second story, which is accounted for in the floor area, where you can view the garden scale as well. Various types of buildings. The concept for the garden scale train is actually the historic route from New York City to Chicago. So that is kind of playing out through this whole development. So you will have some garden scale trains passing along here as well as some buildings and water features I mentioned. Plantings are all miniaturized, so they will actually be all trimmed and cut and maintained to keep scale. So it's a quite involved process.
Is this all for a commercial venture?
No, this is for single-family, personal use. Yeah.
The way it's set up, it looks starch sort of like that.
Schmidt, right?
With the cover on the platform, it looks exactly like the cover in Rhinecliff.
That is the inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Frank Mazzarella is the architect here, and just through both the history on this property of greenhouses, as well as the location and the history of Rhinebeck, trying to tie in all of those elements here. Next slide, please. So this would be as you kind of round the back side of that. So now we're on the north side of the property, and this is actually a replica of Chicago. That portion, so in the distance you see Buffalo, so that thing kind of starts here. And actually in the distance you can see what will be the signature bridge.
Brian, you recognize Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that's Chicago. That's the way they say it.
So,
They have huge fans there.
This is, probably the most, gives you the most information from this picture, certainly the aerial view of this area. As I mentioned, this entire area was what you see before you, which used to be the Carmelita Sisters development. So it was mostly hardscape and buildings as it is. There's a small bit of hardscape on this site, but mostly it's going to be plantings and improvements in that way.
Is it hardscape now, or is it
No.
landscape?
No, currently it's just grass with the remaining trees, yeah.
This is the drive, that T-Court?
This is T-Court Lane that turns into a private, right about here is where the Ferncliff Drive spins off, and that continues into the private drive into the property. And this is actually a photo, we didn't render the phase 3 portion of that loop. We thought there was enough information in the renderings that we provided, but this is actually a photograph of what's existing now. This is one of the southern and central loops. This is on site, so when we do our site visit, we'll certainly be able to visit these. So this is a representation of a wooden trestle, which is what we're going for the phase 3 loops. There's a mix when you get to the spanning because of the steel and wood. But this gives you a good idea of, what the actual trestle structures look like.
So is that part of, I didn't see it in here, but.
It's not, I just
Okay.
included it tonight, yeah.
Can you just provide us a copy of that and make sure Gretchen gets a copy of it?
Absolutely, I think I'll submit the entire presentation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that was the last one, right?
Nice presentation.
Are there any questions or anything from the board? I understand it's a very interesting and unique project. So,
How long does it take to do all this?
if everything goes well, we hope to begin just mostly the signature bridge construction and foundations for that this year, and potentially the foundations for the building. They are poured concrete, so we're hoping to cure those over the winter. Over all of 2026, we hope to complete the majority of the work, and then into 2027 is probably where we would finish it. So it's looking at about a 2-year project, year and a half, 2 years. We are nearing completion of the southern and central loops, and hoping to have that done by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I've asked Gretchen to pull the prior application to see what we did. I remember it, obviously, it's so unique, but yeah, I don't know.
When we walk the landing.
I don't even remember, we did that, yeah, okay. It'll be interesting to go back, but, so she'll provide us with what the resolution, the prior resolution, and what's being constructed or near completion apparently. So, okay. Question?
No, I walked in it like 2 years ago with CAD, and none of this was built, it was just through the walking in and planning and building, and it was like, wow. No questions.
I don't have any questions. I think it's a pretty complete application to say the least, which is what we usually get from you guys, which is nice. Thank you. Thank you. And nice renderings too.
Very nice.
So, all right, well, I'll make a motion that we accept the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we will set it down for a public hearing for, is it April 16th okay for you, Seth?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and we'll go through the usual process that we went through before. And after the public hearing, we'll have a site visit. And we'll see what, it'd be nice just to see the whole thing, what we approved before, and what you're doing now, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Absolutely.
great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, with regard to the housekeeping, we're going to let the planning board do the,
Yeah, so as
Yeah.
Seth mentioned, it's going to be on for the April 7th.
Yeah.
Makes sense, in my opinion, if the planning board takes on lead agency for seeker.
I will never object to that. So we'll let the planning board take the seeker. Not that I'm sure they have responsibilities, but, of course not. Okay, so I'll refer this to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, WAC, and CAD, your old group.
I wrote a report a while back, I don't know if it ever got read.
Well, it was on a different application, well, assigning it to somebody.
Yep, and so just quick information. So as Seth said, for the area variance number 3, that's for the aggregate roof structures. The determination letter had the calculation based on what was the current accessory structures that are there, which was, I think, 14.
It's set forth, yeah.
Yes, so 1455. I talked to Brian today, and he's fine with going with the calculations based on the 300 square foot versus times the 55 acres. So accepting Seth's area variance for 204
Yeah, it was 202 square feet. And actually, looking at the accessory structures, I think they're all probably bigger than the amendment.
I think they
I
are,
think they're, yeah.
but I'll double check the calculations. There was nothing, when I was looking at the maps, there was nothing that made me think it shouldn't have been included.
Yeah. Okay.
But, you know, I'll double check just to
All right.
make sure that there's not a
One
variance.
less variance would be even worse than the world. All right, great.
I'll take it.
You want to take it? Okay, sure. Well, you're the engineer in the group, so what the heck?
It's an interesting project.
All right.
This needs a seasoned vet.
We need an engineer on this.
Yeah, I have something to do with
Thank you.
All right, so we have, that's it for the new applications. We do have 2 public hearings, and the first public hearing is on case number 1071, Christopher Travers. Are you here for that? You are here for that? Okay, first I don't want to get in trouble with Kim, so I'm going to make a motion that we open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we've opened the public hearing. I think you know what to do.
I do. So I'm Warren Smith, architect, representing Chris Travers and the Comstock owners of 500 Route 308. And so bringing it back down to a somewhat more modest scale, the one area variance we're looking for here actually is very similar to one of the ones the staff is looking for peak work, which is that, or pardon me, afterwards, which is that we have accessory structures exceeding the allowable coverage. In this case, you know, we're not dealing with multiple acres. This is a 5-acre lot, I believe. But basically, we have the attached garage, which is part of the original stable carriage house, is here. I know there's a little nifty little pointer there. Yeah. That counts as an accessory structure, even though it's attached. It has been there since the construction of that building in the late 19th century. There is here an enclosure that has pool equipment and a generator, and it has a trellis over top. That's been deemed a roof accessory structure, and we're proposing to construct a new freestanding 2-car garage with a storage loft above here at the end of the driveway, and that will put us over the 1,500 square foot limit. Not by a lot. The 2-car garage would be 780 square feet in its footprint, so I think we're looking for like 408 square foot of new variance. Over the 1,500 permitted for accessory roof structure. So that is the subject. This is the survey, like the existing site plan, and there's another drawing that shows the proposed structure just here, again, at the end of that driveway and turnaround area. We have put that, for 2 reasons, we put it as far from the existing structure as possible to defer to that rather beautiful late 19th century structure. We've pushed it up against the setbacks, allowable setbacks, without looking for any variances there at the rear and the side. So it's kind of as far away as we can put it, also considering topography and just the other elements on the site. So it's really at the end of the driveway, and there is a rendering that shows how it's in relation to the existing residents as you come in.
And thank you for that.
Yeah, and so there, yeah, so this is the side of what's called the Stanford Way Carriage House. The entrance to that structure is there with the columns of the porch, and then at the very end of the driveway is this proposed 2-car garage.
Is it staked yet?
What's that?
Is it staked? So,
It has been staked, yeah, it's actually been staked since, I don't know, December.
Oh.
But, and believe it or not, despite the snow and everything, they're still there.
Still there.
Little flags and spray paints around. So that's what the application is for the accessory, roofed accessory structures, 408 square feet. and I'm happy to answer any questions that you or the public have about
Yeah,
this.
let me first ask, is there anybody here from the public who has an interest in this application, who would like to be heard and, or ask some questions?
No.
No interest? Not even feigned interest? Nothing? No, that's okay. I always have to ask, because you never know, and that's what we're here for, is to give everybody an opportunity to say their piece, ask their questions, etc. It's pretty straightforward to me, so I just wanted my rendering, and you gave it to me, so I'm happy.
He's happy, I'm happy, I got one too, it's good. I just have a question. It's clapboard?
Yes.
Was there ever any thought in making it brick?
Well, we specifically discussed that, and we don't want to in any way detract from the star of the show. There actually are some small dormers, gable dormers on the main structure with clapboard siding,
Uh-huh.
and it's sort of dark. And the thought is that the structure will be like a dark gray and recede into the background, picking up, the form is massing, recall, the structure there, but we didn't want to in any way try to compete with the primary structure.
Makes sense, yeah.
And dark structures tend to recede anyway into the background.
You're also on
Questions?
trend.
What's that?
You're also on trend.
Well, yes, I know, everything is gray these days, but I'm sure this will be a particularly nice dark gray, not
No,
not
try.
Casey gray, right?
I have no further questions. We're good.
Okay. Well, nobody in the public having any questions, the board not having any questions, I will make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, and you know what that means.
Set a date.
It says, it triggers, well, first of all, it triggers our responsibility to have a resolution done 62 days from today. However, as you know, we typically will have the resolution done at the next meeting in April 16th. In the meantime, we will come out and check out the property and get a lay of the land and all that kind of stuff. And I guess Gretchen will probably contact you. Typically, we've been doing them on Saturday mornings, if that works. Just easy for everybody.
Yeah.
And a bunch of us will come out.
Good.
51 times a Okay. Well, we'll see you in the next couple of weeks on Saturday.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And does the board have any initial thoughts?
It's fine. That's just my opinion.
No, it's tucked away. I mean, you can't see from 308.
No, and it's actually, it's a beautiful structure too.
Yeah.
I think it's, we obviously haven't done a site visit, but before seeing, the actual site, is from what we have, I think it's like that's a perfect spot for it.
Yeah, it does.
It's a good spot, it's well
And
thought out.
it was interesting what Warren said about, I was thinking of, if it was brick, make it look like a home that was built with it, but to actually not distract from this historic
Right.
building was very smart.
That looks like a pretty neat building.
Oh, yeah.
Left there,
Oh,
so,
without a doubt.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think the location and the color, I think it will proceed, it will be less visible than if it was another color and maybe place somewhere else, so.
Oh, was there a building here?
Yeah, see, barely see it. All right, so that's my vote, but.
No, I agree.
Let's say the rest of you. Okay.
Cool.
All right, so I guess a resolution in the affirmative. Subject to, obviously, us going out there,
Right.
seeing what the carpet looks like.
Yep, and, planning board gave their response, they kind of agreed that they thought that it was kind of nice that it was detached as opposed to attached, so it kind of left a little bit of that historic integrity to it. That was, I don't think it was circulated, but I checked
Okay.
the minutes for March 3rd, so, yeah.
So we'll be getting something from them.
Yeah, yeah.
Formally, yeah, I didn't see it.
Who was the original architect? White?
Yeah, it's a Stanford White.
Stanford White House, that's right.
It is, so we did choose Stanford White.
Next, and the last public hearing is Staley. So is there anybody here for the Staley application? Okay, Brian back there. Nick, you're here.
Yeah.
So why don't you go, come on up, and I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, I presume you know what you have to do here, but basically what you have to do here is just explain, you know, what your position is and why, yeah, like the first time.
I happened to ride on that narrow train. My grandfather Irv worked on the estate, and so did Dad. So I was one of the kids that got to ride on that. I think it was about, I'm going to say 52 or 53, somewhere in there. I was 10 or 11 years old. It's a great thrill for me. At any rate, I'm here on short-term rental zoning 125-63E, which says you can only have short-term rentals on your primary residence. My office is not my primary residence, even though I spend more time there than I do in my primary residence, 7 days a week. So I'm asking for a variance so that I can continue to run my Airbnb, which has been running in 23 and 24. The second is 125-36UIA, I guess, and that says you can store an RV on your property, but you can't use it. And I'm trying to convince the Board of Appeals and the public that short-term rental in Rhinebeck, where you can have a family of 4 and a pet for $150 a night at a historic site, the site of the Schuyler Grist Mill on this beautiful waterfall, is probably good for Rhinebeck. It gives people a chance to come that are on a budget and have a pet. And it's not getting used to death. In 24, it was used for 56 nights. So I'm asking for a variance to allow me to continue my short-term rental on that site.
Okay, is there anybody here who would like to ask Nick questions or come up and state their position?
And,
If so,
yeah, and I just have a question. So, and I think we talked about this at the last meeting, if you're asking for a variance or asking for an appeal
I'm asking for a variance.
for a variance. Okay. So it'd have to, it's a use, it would be a use variance?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
all right, come on up. And you have to obviously state your name and you're on camera and your position and, you know, with the town and your position on the subject.
I'm Brian Tam, work for the town of Rhinebeck zoning administrator. I've denied his short-term rental application, but I just wanted to state that on June 15th, 2022, he got a violation for installing that camper in a flood zone and within the wetland buffer. Put a concrete pad down, which is not allowed with anything else to do without a permit. So in 2022, Michael Trimble had sent him a violation, and it was supposed to be removed in 2022. I also spoke with the Board of Health, and he stated in his last meeting that he did a hookup to the septic, which is not allowed, which was not approved, and the Board of Health has no record of that.
Okay.
And when Brian is done, Nick, you have your opportunity to
Yeah,
provide or explain.
this
So
isn't
just
the
let him-
public, this is the enemy.
So,
Not the
You understand?
But I don't live in the town of Rhinebeck, I am also, you know.
so if I may, it's probably best if you sit down.
I think I'm done, I think that's.
Okay, do you have anything?
Well,
else?
you can
I
also
think
explain.
you're saying Nick should sit down, or?
Yeah, I mean, one person at a time.
Yeah.
Are you done, Brian?
Well,
This is comfortable.
Yeah.
yeah, that's it, that's all I wanted to add to the original.
Well, and also if you could just explain the position of the town and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the position of the town is that you can't use a camper on your site, you can only store them in your yard, and even where he's storing it would not be allowed because it's within the wetlands and it's within the flood zone. And short-term rentals have to be your primary residence, so that's the town's position on that. That's all I got.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
I did get the violation and went to see Mike Trimble, and he said that I could not put a pad down without a building permit, which was, I didn't know. I played ignorance, I wasn't building anything. And the hookup to the septic, the Board of Health was there today, They don't know what to do because it's not hooked up now. It's only hooked up part of the year. And like I said, in 2024, it was used for 56 days. There is no huge amount of water. The heater in that little 23-footer gives you about a 3-minute shower. And that's the only thing that goes into the septic. The black water, which is emptied once the tank is full, which is a 10-gallon tank. So there can't be more than 100 gallons of water going in that septic on any given weekend. It's not going to be taxed. The guy was there for an hour. He took measurements. He asked about the septic system. And I will guarantee you, and I'll bet Brian, $1,000 that that's not in the flood zone. That hill, if you go to my house, when you do your site visit, you're going to see, when you get to the dam on my pond, it's a straight downhill run. And it's not a shy deep run, it's a deep run. There's no way that gorge could ever be filled up with water. I moved into that house when I was 9 years old. It has never come over that bank. I submitted drawings that shows that that is not in the wet zone with the application. So that's not true.
Well, we can check on that.
That's right. And when I went to Mike Trimble, I said, I want to get a permit for the pad. He said no, he wouldn't do it. So I reacted to his letter, but the town turned me away. So I don't feel guilty about that at all.
And could you remind me why he said no, please? I know you told us last presentation.
What's the question?
Why did he say no?
He said the state was going to outlaw him anyway. Meaning, I think the governor, which he did. That's the reason we're getting these numbers and everything, because it was a state thing. But this was before the law was passed. He said, you're out of business anyway. That's basically what he told me. So he wasn't going to let me get the permit.
I just got a question. I think there's more than just not in the wetland. You got to be so many feet away from the wetland.
So only the septic tank has to be somewhat away from the wetlands. This thing has got no chemicals in it. It's got nothing that can leak. And when it's hooked up to the septic, it's a solid hookup. So there's nothing that could leak into it. And there's been a camper in my backyard for 20 years. That hookup is old. It's been there forever because I said I had a motorhome back there where my grandson stayed for a whole summer back in around 2015. But I've been operating for 2 years, and he checked the septic system. There's no sign of any leaks. He asked about the septic system, and I said, all I know was done in 1952. The cement tank, he believes, or I believe, well, he said, is probably just a leach, not a leach field, but a pit. And we talked a lot about the original hospital on Livingston Street, which is now 13 apartments on a cesspool. 13 kitchens, 13 bathrooms on a cesspool.
Yeah. We're getting
Yeah,
kind of far
I'm
afield
sorry.
there, and I understand you're passionate about this, but just let's keep
Yeah.
it civil. And I do want to say for the record, Brian is just doing his job.
I
He has a job to
understand
do, and according to the law,
Oh, no, that's
this
why
is
I'm
the
asking.
problem.
That's why I'm
And he
asking
didn't
for a
do it
variance.
out of any animus or anything else. He was just following the law, and he had to do what he had to do. He was doing his duty.
But I want to
Okay?
point out.
So I just want.
Yeah.
I like to keep these things civil,
Sure.
and I just won't tolerate anything else either.
No, I didn't say anything bad about
It
Brian.
just seemed like you're
I
getting a
would
little
never.
hot, and I understand.
I also want to
We
point
get
out
like
there's
that.
nobody from the public here that objects to this, and somebody wrote a letter in favor.
I know someone wrote a letter, we have that letter. But we do have questions, and we have to follow the law.
Oh, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Now, Kim, I had a quick question for you before we got going here, and that was, there's an outstanding violation, the thing with Mike Trimble and the pad, and not getting the building permit and all that kind of stuff. Historically, we have not been able to consider applications if there's an underlying violation of record, and I think there's a nuance here.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing. So it's under section 125-11, and what that says is that there's an existing violation. It says no application for subdivision plat approval, site plan approval, special use permit, certificate of demolition or removal, change of non-conforming use, or variance pursuant to the zoning law shall be deemed complete for the purpose of commencing review for any premises on which there's an existing violation. Now, at the last meeting, we had a discussion with
About?
if it was variance or an appeal, and my notes say that we decided it was an appeal. So we moved forward. And now it's being asked as a variance. So that does change this process because with the existing violation in place from 2022, now there's an existing violation and the variance really can't be processed.
I was denied a chance to fix that. Mike will say that, he's an honest man. He denied my opportunity to fix that. And I know he will tell you that.
But you didn't appeal it back in 2022? You didn't come to the ZBA in 2022?
I didn't know I could appeal it.
Okay.
I mean, he was the boss then. Brian wasn't here, he was doing
I
Brian's job.
understand, but I'm just explaining
Yeah.
what the zoning law says.
Why didn't he task me that? He's a
Well, it's a due
public servant,
diligence on
he
the
should have given me an
owner.
opportunity to do that.
Okay.
I just bring it up because I know historically in the past, we've had that issue. And I just saw that, and then when I heard you say variance, because I do remember you were saying, you were basically, it's an interpretation, we're appealing, you know, the determination, and it wasn't a variance. And I know you're not an attorney, and you're not involved in land use and all that kind of stuff, but there is an important distinction between the two. And a use variance is very difficult to get, to say the least, versus the other thing that we talked about, basically an interpretation of this law, which is an easier thing to do. So, I just bring that up for the record because I know we do have a violation of record that was, it was in the papers and it was also mentioned by Brian and it has to be addressed.
As I said, Mike will tell you that he denied me an opportunity to fix that. He will tell you that. And if he does, that should not, I'm not saying cannot, should not be a reason to deny me because a public servant didn't give me an opportunity to fix something which is obvious, hold on, that I didn't know you needed a building permit to put a slab in the ground. To me, that was not building anything. No drawings, no electric, no plumbing. Give me a break.
So if I may, denial is a strong word. So is there any written record of that? Or is this
No.
verbal?
I walked in with the paper and said, give me a building permit, I want to get one. He turned me away. And I swear he'll tell you that.
So you're
I
saying
believe
yes?
there is a written notice of violation from 2022.
Violation, but not a
Yes.
denial.
A violation of the building, of having the concrete slab in.
But there's no letter about Nick coming before Mike and asking
That's
for
what I'm
a
asking.
building permit to try and fix this.
Unless,
I don't,
were you down there?
we can double check the building.
I was
believe
down there,
that
but
we
not
have-
the building.
Yeah.
The
You
camera
know,
was saying-
well,
We'll look at
we
that.
will, no,
Okay.
seriously, we will check into that to see. And the reason I bring it up is that if there is a violation, we're not even supposed to take the application. We don't even get to the application, okay? So we'll leave that aside and then we'll do the other
I
consideration
understand
too.
that, I understand that.
And we will check the building records to see what, if anything, there is there. Okay?
I just point out that it's very easy for someone not to know that you needed a building permit for that. And I was wrongly treated when he told me I couldn't put an application in for that. I was wrongly treated.
I'm not gonna get into that,
Okay.
but we will check and see what the building records say. And
Okay.
is there anyone else, I'm almost afraid to say and ask, is there anyone else who would like to comment on this application? There's people out there? Nothing? How about you guys? None? All right.
They're too new to the area, they don't want to say anything.
They don't want to say anything. That's right. They're being very prudent.
So what I would suggest,
Okay.
for two reasons. One is that even though there's no additional comments, I think we should hold this public hearing
So we can get the
open.
information.
So one is to double check to see if a permit was applied for. We do have a violation and written, and I will forward that to you. We'll check to see if there was a permit applied for or any other records around that time, just to
There was
look
not
into
one.
that.
He told me he wouldn't give me one. He
Well, you never know,
wouldn't-
there could
Well,
be
let me
notes or
get
something, you never know.
Two is that if you're seeking a variance, I just want to go over what the use variance standard is so that Mr. Staley might be able to put in an argument, or Brian could put in an argument, or anyone from the public, comments on what the use variance standard is. Okay? So I just pulled it up. So as you know, an area variance is when there's a dimensional discrepancy from what's being proposed and what's in the zoning law, like a setback. And that ultimately is a balancing test based on the 5 factors that are discussed. A use variance is asking for a use that is not allowed, and based on how the short-term rental is, it has to be your primary residence, which you've acknowledged, it has to be your primary residence.
That's why I'm asking for a variance.
Yep, and so I just want to just read to you that what a use variance is, you have to prove all 4 of these factors, okay? And we can, I think if you pull up the use variance application on the website, or I can provide it to Gretchen, it will have this all in writing so you can see it too. So the first factor is that the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, and you don't have to answer this right now, but we're continuing it so you have time to think. The applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, provided that the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. Usually you have to actually show a dollar and cents amount, that you can't do anything else on this property. The alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. Factor 3 is the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the district or the neighborhood. And factor 4 is that the alleged hardship has not been self-created. Now that's something that's also in the area variance, but the difference is that when you're talking about self-created hardship in the area variance, it's part of the overall factor test, and that even if it is self-created, it doesn't mean that the variance should be denied. A use variance is actually different in that you have to show that it is not a self-created hardship to be granted a use variance. So anyway, we will provide those factors to you so you have a chance to look at them.
So I need to do all that to get a variance?
A use variance.
For a use
yes.
variance, a use variance
I'm
is
asking for
very
a variance
difficult.
of the zoning law.
Yes, that's a use variance.
A use variance is very difficult to get, and you need a lot of information. It's not impossible, and Kim just read what you need to provide in order for us to be able to reasonably consider the use variance.
Right.
Okay,
So you don't care that nobody objects to this at all?
We have to follow the law. You're asking for a variance from the law. We have to justify whether we're going to give a variance or not based upon the information provided to us. A use variance is very difficult, different than the area variance, okay, which is a lot easier to get, and you need to provide this information. It's not impossible. We've granted them in the past, but we need to have the information because we can't willy-nilly. They just passed this law. We can't willy-nilly say, forget about it.
And so that's one other thing I wanted to point out, Scott, too. So the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, what they are, they're a quasi-judicial board. What they do is they look at the zoning law, see if the variance should be granted based on what the state factor tests are, which is what I just read. But their job is to interpret the law or grant variances within the state law that they can. The town board is the legislative branch, and they're the ones that draft the laws. And if there's a policy consideration, such as, hey, you know, I'm on this property more than my residential home, that's something that's better taken up with the town board to adjust what's in the law. But the zoning board has to look at what's in the law and interpret that.
And the town board from time to time does take those issues up and amends the law depending on the situation. But we're not there yet. We have the law we have to deal with now. We just need to have more information from you. We have to have a proper use variance application and the information that's required so that we can reasonably consider your application, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So with that said, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Just
Just continue the public hearing until April 16th.
Okay.
That'll give you plenty of time to get the information.
All right.
And then get it to us. And
Is there any reason why we should not visit the site?
we can visit I think we can probably visit.
Oh, yeah.
the site.
I would like a site visit.
Okay, before then. Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Rich.
Would it be two use variances he's going for? Because the camper also isn't in the law is not being, you can't use it on your property.
I'm asking for a variance.
So that's two.
It's probably, I'll defer to council.
So I think it's.
The bottom line is
For
the use
using
variance.
it
It's
would
a
be
use
for
of the
using the
property.
camper as a short-term rental,
Right.
so it would be a use variance from two different provisions of the
Right,
law.
okay. But they're joined at the hip, but I
I mean,
understand what you're
yeah, I
saying.
mean, they're not joined at the hip in terms of zoning law,
No,
but
but
in this particular
situation,
project,
they are, yes.
they'll be relevant.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the concrete pad too, is that part of it? or-
Well, we're gonna check
Well,
and
that's
see what
gonna
the
be the
building.
part of the building department.
Yeah, building department record show. So anyway, I'm gonna make the motion that we continue the public hearing until April 16th, 2025. Nick, can you make the
Yes,
the
I'll make
16th?
it no matter what.
Okay, in the meantime, we will come and visit you. And
Oh,
visit
oh,
the site.
nice.
I know,
Thanks.
but we'll probably on Saturday morning. So anyway, the motion is, I made the motion, do I have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
so, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, folks, for coming out. Appreciate it.
All right, so the last thing we have, I think, is the old business, which is the resolution on Rock Ledge.
Yes.
And who is lucky enough to do that? You? Not you?
So the Rock Ledge, the public hearing was closed at the last meeting. I got direction to write a resolution granting the area variance with the conditions that the stone barn have 2 units at all times, or no more than 2 units at all time. Manor House have no more than 6. The ZBA was fine with that. I incorporated that into the resolution. The resolution was drafted to you and circulated, and it's been posted on the website online.
Well, I guess I'll read it, and obviously the importance for the public that it's been posted is that we don't have to read pages and pages of this resolution, we only have to read the last portion of it. And I would note that I believe that we did have 2 neighbors who did not have a problem with these particular
With the area variance.
area variances that we're talking about. Okay, so this is the resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the area variance application of Hudson Valley Rhinebeck LLC, also known as Rock Ledge, ZBA case number 978. Now therefore be resolved based upon all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. Section 1, the ZBA hereby grants the variance requested by the applicant, finding that the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. The applicant is permitted to have 8 residential dwelling units for its adaptive reuse project. The applicant will still have a total of 8 residential dwelling units by transferring 2 of the residential dwelling units from the smaller stone barn to the larger manor house, such that the stone barn will have 2 residential dwelling units instead of the maximum 4 residential dwelling units, and the manor house will now have 6 residential dwelling units. In transferring the residential dwelling units between the 2 historic structures, the applicant avoids altering or expanding the exterior of the historic structure and preserves those structures. No change will be made to the exterior by this transfer of units, thus preserving the integrity and character of the neighborhood. Section 2. The granting of the variance is expressly contingent upon the following. A. The stone barn will have at most 2 residential dwelling units at all times. B. The manor house will at most have 6 residential dwelling units at all times. Section 3. The granting of, is it a singular?
Yes, it's one.
Okay, it's one.
Yeah.
The granting of this variance shall be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the Town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application in full compliance with Article 14, fee reimbursement of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. The variance shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Section 4. The granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. The proposed plans regarding the stone barn and the manor house must be constructed in conformity with the application and plans submitted, subject to any additional changes or conditions required by the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board during the course of their review. Section 5, the area variance shall be null and void unless the proposed project is commenced within 1 year of this resolution. And any comments? I know we all went out there on Saturday.
It was Saturday.
Or it was eons ago. I mean, to me, it makes absolute sense, given the size of the structures. There's not going to be any change in number of units. There never will be any change in number of units under this. You know, I just think it makes a whole lot of sense, and it was nice to hear two of the neighbors actually agreeing that this small piece of the application, this makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know how they, in the beginning, thought that they could put 4 in each spot. I mean, I don't know what the thinking was there, but this, making it 2 and 6 just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that, and maybe it was originally, it's been around for so long, that it was 4 and 4, but I kind of remember it was 6 and 2, almost like forever.
I think when I look back at the original application, and in their narrative, they had said that they originally had contemplating having 4 and 4, because that's
Okay.
what's permitted in the zoning law, but then they reconsidered it, and that's
Right.
how this project has been.
It just makes sense, you know, so in my mind, but I defer to you guys as to what you think.
Makes perfect sense.
All right.
Cool.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution as read. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Scott,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
All right. And Kim, is there anything else for this evening? I think that's all we have on our agenda.
I have two questions.
Sure.
So with that, they cannot do the stone barn, they can't put any additional additions onto that without coming back.
Well, they can't put more than 2 units in there, because that's what the variance was for.
So they want to expand the footprint?
That probably would be
No.
a planning board, that probably is more of a planning board.
They are going to put something in the back as an entrance,
Yeah.
Okay,
but they will not put another unit.
okay,
It's
so
just
it's
an
the
entrance.
unit, so you guys
It-
just do the units, not the footprint?
Right.
And then the
Right.
planning board does the footprint?
And that small addition is already included in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very clear from what I read, section 2, that it will always be 2 and it will always be 6, and that's that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for, coming out and expressing your opinions and interests, and I think the public comment on this case over the years has actually made it a much better application, which is why we do this. Anyway, anybody have anything else? No? Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. See you in we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
8:31.
8:31.